Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Legend of Korra Book 4 Balance episode commentary. This one's going to be for K402 Korra Alone. Now, to sync up this commentary with your copy of the episode, what you need to do is have your episode ready to start with the intro of every episode of Korra, so the bit that comes up with the avatars, Kyoshi, the Earth, Fire, Air, Water bit. Now, I'm going to stop speaking in a moment and pause for a moment, and then when I start speaking again after that pause, you hit play, I'll hit play, and we'll be synced up with the episode together. So, I'm going to stop speaking now, hit play on your episode when I start speaking again. Okay, so here we are with K402 Korra Alone. My favorite episode of Book 4 Balance. I just think this is a really excellent episode. Just this, obviously the references to Zuko alone from Avatar with the naming convention of the episode, but also because just the idea that it's a main character episode that focuses just completely on them, a journey that they take on their own that's extremely important to them as a character. So Zuko is about kind of revealing the past of Ursa and explaining why he is the way he is at this point in time. While with Korra here, it's focused on her recovery, what she's been up to in the past 3 years. And it's an extremely well-timed episode because it was important that we get the explanation for that shocking scene at the end of episode 1, where we see that Korra has lied to everyone and is kind of off on her own, fighting in this kind of Earth Rumble tournament and loses. Like, what's Korra up to? What's her mental state? What's going on? And we see that straight away here in the first scene, where she's, she can heal herself. Okay, that's fine. She can clearly still bend, but her bending doesn't seem as powerful. And then her mind doesn't seem to be quite right. She's seeing these visions. She's almost walking out into the street. She's confronting kind of visions of herself. It's such an interesting idea. Like, ultimately what this vision is kind of like at least to Korra, this kind of representation of what she has to overcome, because that vision that she's seeing of herself is what she looked like as Zahir was killing her with by suffocation back at the end of book 3. That was the exact kind of screenshot in time. That's what Korra looked like. She was in the Avatar state, she had the chains wrapped around her arms, and was nearly killed in that state. And so her biggest fear in many ways is being back in that situation where she was helpless and was nearly about to be killed. And so this episode is kind of about explaining through these flashbacks how she came to this point from being, sad about the position she's in, not healed physically or mentally, to being healed physically but not mentally yet. So there's very interesting dynamic. She refuses the kind of aid of her friends, to come with her, because she wants to heal on her own, and definitely to some extent that she doesn't really want to let her friends kind of see her in such a kind of fragile state to some extent. There we go straight away. That ultimately what it is that she's having these flashback kind of visions of nearly dying, and again, that's the moment she remembered in her dreams. That's the version of Korra that she saw in the earlier kind of vision of the street. Love this scene here with Senna. We don't get a lot of Senna in the series, but when she appears, it's always a really nice mother-daughter scene, and this is another good one. You can tell that Senna's a little bit older now as well, the kind of age lines of the face in the animation, and she really cares about Korra and the position that she's in, and just kind of really begs Korra to go and see Katara and start her physical recovery, because Senna herself can't really help. Now, there obviously is the thing about, Senna is a waterbender, that's canon, but is she not a healer? Can she fight? Or it's not really revealed any of Senna's skills as a waterbender, but still interesting. And then we go to see Korra and Katara in the scenes together, and Katara understands, an avatar, someone close to her, being in a bad bad situation physically. That's the way Aang was when he was killed and brought back to life by Katara. He understands. Janet Varney does a wonderful job in this whole episode at displaying such a range of emotions in her voice. Like just there a moment ago, having to display this sheer determination that I want nothing more than to be healed. That's my ultimate goal here. And then the excitement at the first sign of progress here, the little toe moving, it's just such a good voice acting job. It's not overdone, but it perfectly fits the scene, and it's really emotional and like powerful. Just seeing like them devote such a good amount of this episode to a character just undergoing basically physical therapy to kind of get over a mercury poisoning, and her dealing with all of this. It's not simple. It's not easy. It's hard to see Korra like this, and I just like the little moments like Naga being concerned for Korra, and even though she's determined to make progress, it's hard on her. Every step forward in recovery reminds her of if I do recover, what if something like that happens to me again? Do I fully want to recover? I might get hurt again. That's always in the background here. And then we see the letters that she gets from her friends. Huge pile on the desk there beside her bed, and she's not replying to any of them just yet. And really what this displays is that while she's kind of recovering, making slow progress, just a lot of time going by and not much happening, her friends are all advancing greatly. Asami's doing all this crazy business stuff and is really advancing. Mako's back to doing his job, as a cop on the street. Bolin is going off with, Varric, Julie, and Kuvira. While, as I said, she's just recovering. And, the letters were meant to help Korra, but they end up kind of like, almost like pointing out her situation more to her. It's a really interesting dynamic, and you can see just the music that they're playing, the animation on Korra's face is just really good. And I think this is the moment where she makes a big step in her recovery. Yeah, she gets really angry here. This is a very strong scene. She's made some progress in a couple of months, and here it all comes out that everything that she's always wanted to say just comes out, and she aims it at Katara because she's the one nearby, and she understands that it's not Katara's fault. But Katara understands that she's really upset about what happened to her. That's a really big line, I'm tired, so tired. For a character so energetic, so intense, so driven, for her to say that is that's a big thing for her to say. And I love what Katara says here, because ultimately this advice ends up being the solution for everything. She explains to Korra that Aang went through a lot as well. He lost all of his people, but he didn't let it destroy his spirit. He found meaning in his suffering, which ultimately is what Korra has to do in this entire season. Understand through her suffering what other people are going through, and really in this season what that is like it allows her to understand Kuvira and end the conflict with Kuvira in this episode without having to hurt or really kill anyone or anything like that. So again, love the Naga concern for Korra throughout the episodes. It's really strong. And she makes her first couple of steps because of the advice that Katara has given her, that if Aang has been through that, if the other avatars have been through a lot in their lives, I can get through this. And again, it shows that at the end of the first episode, she denied being the Avatar. She denied knowing who that was, that she was the Avatar. And here, at the start of her recovery, we see how intent she is on returning to being the Avatar. And at the end of her first walk, she hugs Naga. It's a really great moment. There's so much going on in this episode, and it's just really focused on just one character, just Korra Alone. Reference to the episode title. But yeah, cute dog, which turns out to be the spirit that she goes to visit in one of the other flashbacks. It's really good. But again, she sees the vision of the spirit. Why do I keep calling it a spirit? It's just a vision. And obviously, it being a spirit, it can see that it's not really explained. Like, how could the spirit see this in Korra's mind representation of the of her issues? It's hard to understand. Maybe it's just a power that the spirits have. Maybe it's a level of, this is a spiritual block, because we later find out that she doesn't have her connection to Rava at this point in time and doesn't get it back until like much later on. She gets it back in parts. There's definitely some slight technical, mechanical confusions about Korra's recovery, just in terms of like, okay, she recovered after episode 4, the calling, and the rest of the poison is taken out of her. What part of her recovery is fixed by her visit to Zahir, and what's not fixed by getting rid of the rest of the poison? But we flash back to another part where more time has passed, and she seems to be fully physically able again for the most part, and we get a repeat of basically I think the second scene in the entire series back in episode 1. It's a sparring session with these Order of White Lotus kind of member guards, firebending test all over again. The music comes on, looks like it's the exact same sort of sequence, Korra doing similar things, but everything seems a little bit slower, not as intense. But then all of a sudden, no, Korra takes one hit, remembers that she could get hurt, and goes completely defensive and stops. And she's not quite right, and it's really interesting, perfectly done reference to her previous episode there. Really well done. And I like this moment because it's just like Ten's just like, you have to wait. You have to get back to recover properly before you can help with any of this stuff. We've got this under control. But she really wants to get back to doing what she wants to do. Which references stuff later on, obviously, that Kuvira ends up having so much power because no one else was there to take up the role. And it's not like that Korra purposely chose to stay away. She wasn't able to do anything. And this experience here helps her understand Kuvira. That's an interesting scene, that really kind of long shot of Korra waterbending on the cliff. But she sends one letter back to Asami, and a lot of people take this as a Korra Asami moment, and like, to some extent, yes, that she would send it to only Asami, and I don't think, but the thing is, I don't think there's anything inherently romantic about her sending a letter to Asami. It was established in the previous book that the two are friends. Close friends. Like, the whole point, I think, of book 3 and the whole Korra Asami thing was to establish that they are, among Team Avatar, the closest of friends, and so it makes sense that she would send it to them. In addition to that, her friendship with Mako and Bolin really came from a kind of physical activities, the pro bending, and so her still not being physically able, maybe she wouldn't want to write to those two because they see her as the Avatar. Maybe first and foremost, maybe that's her perspective on it. And Asami as a non-bender can maybe understand her a bit better. But still, strong moment, and her parents understand that she needs to get back to the city and maybe do stuff on her own. In many ways, here we find out that she's actually she's telling the truth initially, in that she wants to go back. In that, as we see here, she just makes this stop on the way and is about to just go to Republic City, but what she experiences here changes things. And she's wearing her Avatar outfit, Avatar hairstyle, everyone knows who she is. And I love this little thing here, that Aang had actually visited this same shop before, and he's been collecting pictures of the avatars. Seaweed wraps. Aang rolls. And classic Avatar, not knowing how to take a picture properly. And he mentions that he wishes he could meet Kyoshi because she's powerful and strong. She could take down people. And Korra's like, oh, I'm not quite ready for that yet. And then she's put into a position where she kind of has to be the Avatar. She's expected to just be able to easily take down some thieves that are right there. And she seems to start it off very well. Tough confrontation, ready to fight. But no, the fight doesn't go well at all. She starts to have her memories go, the visions of the past and stuff like that, and the fight doesn't go well. And they're questioning, are you the Avatar? And there we go, she's at Republic City, she's about to arrive back, but what holds her back, of course, is that she sees the vision of herself, basically in many ways holding her back from returning to the city, holding her back from returning to what she's meant to kind of go back and do. She, at this point, decides that, until I recover, I can't return to being the Avatar, because I can't go back to the city and have everyone ask me to do these things, and for me to say, sorry, I can't, I'm not ready to do that yet. That's the idea that I get from this, and that she's going undercover here so no one recognizes her as the Avatar, so she can work on healing herself without the kind of pressure of going everywhere and having her basically have to act like a police officer everywhere almost. And so changes her hairstyle, changes her clothes, and goes undercover. So it's a pretty good haircut for basically one cut of a knife, but works well. And she's going to the I assume that's the northern portal, because how would her parents not have noticed her if it was the southern portal? I'm gonna just say it's the northern portal. And she goes into spirit world to try and meditate with the spirits, get the Avatar's state back, Rava, whole thing. But it's revealed here that the spirits can't sense Rava within her. And these are pretty nice spirits, you get some character from them that you don't get from a lot of spirits. You don't really know what they're about. But these ones are pretty fun. They seem to care about Korra. There we go. I couldn't feel Rava's energy. She can't connect with Rava. And she can't see anything in the Tree of Time. And the spirits think they can help her, but no, she wants to do it on her own. And this is a moment here. This is the reason the episode is called Korra Alone, in that she eventually hits a wall in her recovery and thinks that she has to do it on her own, and not without the help of anyone. And as she travels the world basically looking for ways to recover, she is constantly seeing the visions of what she doesn't want to happen, constantly reminded of what happened to her, and is lying, the contrast of what she's saying, that everything's fine, everything's going great, to her pushing herself to the limit. All these kind of moments, she sees hope and she sees Rava in the desert, and it's just a mirage, what she wants to happen more than anything. And I like that they get that across, that even back at the end of episode 1, she wants nothing more than to return to be the Avatar, but for whatever reason she can't quite finish her recovery, because she can't kind of get over the memories of what happened to her. It's a really interesting character arc. And we're getting into the setup here of where the scene from the first episode actually comes from. Again, I think they could have done a better job at explaining this actual seemingly physical or spiritual vision that she's seeing and what it actually is, because you see it a couple of times, but they don't really ever explain precisely what it is or anything like that. And I suppose maybe that's a problem in general with this arc, in that they don't explain a lot of what's going on, but for the most part it's fine. It's just like a lot of stuff with Korra, there's not quite enough time to explain everything. But yeah, she tries to get into the fight because she sees the vision of herself in the girl she's fighting, and that she didn't go into the fight to become like a pro-bending MMA fighter or anything like that. She went in there to fight this vision of herself, to prove that she's fully recovered, but she loses. So it adds a new perspective to the scene that we saw at the end. basically this whole episode just completely changes our thoughts on that one scene of Korra from the previous episode. And now we're seeing the kind of what happens after that scene. She's going into the swamp. This spirit is guiding her there. Guiding her to Toph, of course. Not of course, because spiritual stuff, yeah, Toph, of course. But it's really fitting that Toph is found in the swamp, given that that's the vision of Toph that Aang had was first seen in the swamp. And it's that same spirit that's helping her. Who can help you? And in many ways, Toph is the perfect character to help Korra, in that their personalities are fairly similar in that they're both tough characters. And a character like Toph is much more help, I think, to Korra in this position than, say, Toph would be to Aang if he was in a similar position. Now we see another fight here. And again, this is, as far as I'm aware, technically happening just in Korra's head. But looks like she's taking physical damage. It just seems like this that are a little bit like, I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to do this mental battle, but when you're not really making it massively clear, is this like an illusion? Is this a vision from the swamp? Like, what is physical Korra actually going through during this scene? Is there something attacking her or not? It's a little bit confusing, but I get what they're going for with this. It's just they probably should have just I suppose I assume the idea here is that it's probably the swamp fighting her. This is the idea of the swamp can move, as we saw from the episode The Swamp in Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it can actually grab you. It's got moving vines at times, even without Hugh or anything like that doing anything. That it has these kind of weird hurricane tornado things that can suck people into the swamp. And yeah, obviously since she collapses, Toph says she found her unconscious. I suppose the idea is that it was just happening in her mind, and she just kind of had a kind of mental panic attack in the middle of the swamp. But yeah, interesting reveal of Toph. Just randomly living underground in the swamp. She knows what's going on in the swamp. And it's interesting because it's not just, wow, Toph is going to help Korra, it's, wait, Toph isn't the sort of character to really help people especially in the situation that Korra is in. We need an explanation on how Toph is in a position where she can help people, and as well as just, okay, how's she going to help Korra? Just, how is Toph in a position to help Korra? And obviously this was at Comic-Con, so this reveal at the end was just perfect for the end of an episode screening at Comic-Con. It was amazing. They showed it online, obviously, for anyone who wasn't there, and I think everyone just knowing that they were seeing this at the same time as the people in the convention, it was just such a great moment. Yeah, that's the commentary for K402 Korra Alone. Probably going to have the next one out probably tomorrow or Saturday. I'm going to try and probably do 3 a week on the days I'm not doing other videos. But yeah, as I said, my favourite episode from Book 4, Balanced. Just wonderful episode, gets across such a great character arc that Korra didn't really have in Book 3, so it's great to see such a character-focused episode early on in Book 4. But yeah, that's been a commentary. Thanks for listening, and bye.